Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening. Welcome to being here. I'm Ariel.
I'm Shia, and we finish each other's sentences.
We do. And did you know something?
No, what?
Bragging can be cool.
Ah, I like that. Yes.
I want to brag on Shia.
Oh, please do.
He is so amazing. He, let's see, what can I brag about? Everything. I love him. I do. He made me the most gorgeous breakfast this morning. And that's enough said for now. Are you listening? If you're listening, your life can transform in an instant.
But you got to listen rather than think about and comment about in your thoughts, whether you agree or disagree with what we're saying. You know, all it takes is an instant for your life to transform. All it takes is getting into the current moment of your life and listening. If you truly listen, listening can get you here. All it takes is hearing what's being said without commenting on it or sorting it into what you agree with or disagree with.
I don't know if this is true.
Go ahead.
But I once heard a story about Emeril Lagasse. Emeril Lagasse is a chef, and he was on television, and he may still be, I don't know, but he was huge for a period of time. But in the early days, according to the story, when he started filming, he filmed late at night because it was inexpensive to rent studio space. So his audiences were often very sleepy. And so in the middle of doing something, he'd go, bam, and the bam would wake up the audience. And then it became one of his trademarks.
Right.
And it occurs to me, transformations like that, it's kind of like, bam, all of a sudden, you're awake to a new possibility. One moment, you're kind of somnambulistically, as in sleepwalking through your life. And the next moment, you're here. Let's listen to each other today.
And see what we might discover that we don't already know.
It's okay. You're not a failure if you don't know everything. Curiosity is just such an incredible asset to have. And if you're really here and you're curious, then even someone who you've lived the majority of your life with is a delight and an unexpected possibility. The moment they round the corner into the room, it's like, new person.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, very good.
Shall we take our first guest?
Yes, let's take our first guest.
Mr. Harley, welcome to being here. Where are you zooming in from?
Hi, guys. I'm calling in from Napanee, Indiana.
Welcome to being here.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, when you said earlier that bragging can be cool or is cool, something to that effect, I immediately had quite a bit of commentary in my head about how it's anything but cool with my cultural.
This is very, very interesting, because if I'm not too badly mistaken, and I don't believe I'm mistaken, you suggested the topic heading for this show or this episode of being here.
True.
I don't recall doing that. It wasn't in an email format, but I must have done it verbally.
It wasn't in email format, actually. I'll go find it if you want.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Yes.
We asked for suggestions for programming, and all kinds of folks gave us their suggestions, and yours happened to be
about bragging.
Bragging can be cool.
Well, I love that you've forgotten that you sent us this request. We did go through all of the different titles and descriptions that people sent to us, and we worked the title and description to make sure it was transformation and not change. But you were absolutely the instigator of this. So let's look at it for a minute. Let's look at how we all have been steeped in a culture. And, you know, a lot of people think, oh, Harley's American. But there's different pockets of culture in each
Subcultures.
town, in each religion, in each family. And tell people a little bit about your background and what that culture.
Well, you live in Napanee, Indiana.
So that's a beginning.
Now,
Yeah.
what kind of people live in Napanee, Indiana?
Aside from great ones like you.
Yeah, it's a very conservative community. There's a lot of Amish people and Mennonite people here, they're very similar. The Mennonite have electricity and cars, whereas the Amish, they still drive the horse and buggy, no electricity, very modest lifestyle. And
so a question, I know you have a lot of siblings that your parents have now passed away. Do all of your siblings or the majority of your siblings ascribe to that, where they have the horse and buggy?
yes, yeah, majority of them do. I have 3 brothers that are preachers in the Amish community, actually.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's.
So internet itself. So this being here, podcast and the internet would not be something for them because it's not part of their culture.
Correct. Yeah. Most of them don't even have phones. They have typically what they do is they have a community, like a payphone, like it used to be. But now it's not a payphone anymore, just a regular, like a home phone. And they share that, but you're not allowed to have one in your home.
Well, where do you keep it?
Well, they have it like in a little,
Yes.
do you remember how the payphones used to have like a little hut or a little, yeah. So they'll have one of those, like maybe a couple scattered through the community.
Oh, that's kind of cool, actually.
Do people fight over them?
I remember growing up, sometimes there'd be a line, there'd be a couple people that you just wait your turn. So
so of course you wouldn't want to own the idea that bragging is cool, because that is so against the culture you were steeped in. And my guess is, Harley, that at the time you suggested this topic, you happened to be very excited about some aspect of your life, and you found yourself having that gap between you and self-expression that happens when you're afraid you're being too, what would be the word they would use to describe that?
Yeah, they would interpret it as arrogance if you brag. They're a very ideally you live humbly. You're a humble person and you never brag. That would be the ideal Christian or ideal Amish person, which I think that goes along with other religions as well to some extent.
But it's an extreme, it's extreme in its restrictive nature.
Yes.
That there are restrictions on the clothing you wear. So the shirt you're wearing now, that would definitely be Hockmoot, right?
Yeah, bad news. Yeah.
Bad news.
Way too flashy.
I know people can't see it, but he's wearing a plaid shirt.
Yeah, and it's a plaid in grays and tans and whites and cream colors, but it's not what I would call flashy, except in that community. That would be very flashy because everything should be plain.
But what's interesting, Harley, is you're talking about people don't have phones, that they go to a community phone. It sounds on one level quite lovely. I sometimes think having all of this input all the time, it does not necessarily enrich all of our lives. So I don't want to make that lifestyle wrong or where you came from wrong. I do see that we have backgrounds that inhibit us from in the moment being ourselves. Where, for instance, if you have a win and there have been people supporting you or people who love you, for you to articulate that, then basically you're feeding back to all the people who ever said, yes, Harley, you can do that. Go for it.
Yeah.
In change, you have humble and arrogant. You have bragging and whatever the opposite of that is.
Contrite.
There's the opposite. When in transformation, it's about being appropriate to the moment.
See, your life is taking place in the current moment. This moment that we are in is where your life is taking place. Everything that came before that is history. Everything that may come in the future, well, it hasn't gotten here yet, so it doesn't really exist. So all you really have is the current moment of your life. But you, like all of us, have been raised in an ongoing culture that had rules of behavior, rules how you're supposed to comport yourself and how you're supposed to relate to other people. And those rules, although they were well-meant, restrict how you experience your life in the current moment, because you're trying to fit the current moment into that system that dictates how life should be. See, now, life shows up the way it does, and if you're here for it, you become appropriate to the moment. You look and see what's wanted, what's needed, and you provide that or produce it, rather than try to impose a structure that is generations old. See, your brothers that are preachers in the Amish church or ministers, they are repeating what they've heard from other people in the Amish church over generations. The idea of electricity didn't exist when the Amish church first came into being. At least I don't think so.
Yeah, that's correct.
And so anything new is being rejected for some idea of what a better you would be. But this is the point. It isn't just Amish.
It's Jewish. It's
Christian. It's Ethiopian. It's European. It's American.
Muslim. It's all of it. But here's the thing, Harley, let's talk about the 3 principles of instantaneous transformation. I mean, even that we have to, or we are today, looking at the possibility of bragging can be cool. And notice, normally we're like, bragging is cool, but it can be cool because there are times when it's cool and there are times when it's likely annoying. Let's look at the 3 principles of instantaneous transformation. Anything you resist, you carry with you.
That's the first principle. Anything you resist, you get stuck.
And so if you've resisted the restrictive nature of your background.
So with you, it's the Amish church or religion or culture.
Then you will push against those ideals, but you will also likely hide from yourself the things you judge from the prejudices that you've internalized from that, such as bragging.
Right. Yeah.
So it's both ends. But you also, because you're resisting that, we'll make that assumption for a moment, you won't see how some of the meticulous nature you have in your building. I'm looking at your home behind you. There's a very meticulousness in the home itself.
There's an orderliness.
There's a quality that comes with it. But if we've got good and bad, right and wrong, restrictive or conservative and liberal, you won't see, you'll slot them into categories. And if it falls into a bad category, you'll resist it. So first principle.
You know, I find interesting about this resisting the way life shows up has a purpose. It provides some assets. It's got some positive things. You see, if you have a set of rules that dictate how you live your life, then you never have to be responsible
for your life choices.
For your life choices. It's well, that's wrong, and that's wrong, and that's wrong. And I'm allowed to do this. Well,
my background made me do it.
Right. It gives you the excuse to not be self-motivating. It gives you the excuse to follow the rules of behavior, so you don't have to ever look and choose, oh, is this my truth, or am I just doing what they told me to do?
Second principle, life shows up exactly as it does in any given instant. Just boom, bam, the Emerald Lagasse, boom, here we are. Third principle, anything you see without judging completes itself in an instant. So you want to express yourself about something like, I'm so excited for the first time in my life, and I'm in my 40s, I got a truck.
It's funny you say that. I was actually going to bring that up earlier.
You do.
How that, that's my brag, or one of my brags is I recently purchased a brand new truck for the first time in my life, or vehicle, I should say, any vehicle, brand new. And it's a lot of, it seemed to trigger a lot of just old, for lack of a better term, I'm going to call it programming or stuff that just like, well, this is excessive. You didn't really need a brand new, you could have still bought a used one and, not spent quite as much money on yourself. And I honestly believe a couple of years ago, before I met this community, that I would have listened to that commentary and followed that. But the deal was, excuse me, the deal that was that they made me was, I looked and I saw, and I'm like, this is an incredible deal, and they're giving me a good amount for the truck. And
let me stop you here. You see,
because we're so
what you're beautifully demonstrating is how run you are by this culture that you have to justify what you do to be okay with yourself for buying yourself something you want.
That it's a deal.
That
you got a good deal.
You got a good deal.
And also,
and they gave you a lot for your old truck. So that makes it even a sweeter deal.
And not only that, I don't have to be responsible. I do have these values from the Amish community, but now have new values from this community. So I don't have to be responsible for, I wanted that truck. I got that truck.
And I'm happy I have my truck. See, it's okay for you. Look, I think each of us are God in our own universe. So look, as God in your universe, that you give yourself a truck, congratulations.
Now that's arrogant. He's like, he took a deep breath. He's like, oh my God, he's calling me God. It was bad enough I got a truck.
You said that before, and it resonated true for me, even though there's commentary about it.
Which that?
Oh, I'm sorry. That we're God in our own universe.
Well, look, you've engineered your life to turn out exactly as it has.
Well,
either by saying no or by saying yes. You've done things in opposition to your background, to your culture, that have, in certain respects, undermine the quality of your life, and in other respects have led you to have a lovely home and a brand new truck.
Yeah, for most, a large part of my life, I resisted. I didn't know I was resisting. I rebelled hard against those rules and the structure. And it wasn't until I met this community that I was able to see that
there is no community until you met us.
Right. Yeah.
There are other people who participate with us, and that's the community you're talking about. But it isn't that it's a community, it's that, and it is, but you met us. Your brother gave you a book we wrote.
And said,
Right.
this isn't for me, but I think it is for you, that you will like it.
And then you listened to our podcast for several years before you ever communicated with us, because you were very careful. You were conservative. You were trying to work your way around all the rules in your life.
And I appreciate that about you. I actually admire you
We
very
admire
much,
you.
Harley.
We admire you more than you can even imagine, because you limit yourself. You think you are that conversation you listen to, rather than this amazing man that we've met.
Now, it could be considered, quote, bragging that Shai said there is no community. Of course there is. That's not what he's talking about. He said it's us, as in Shia and myself. It could be considered bragging that we acted as catalytic agents for a number of people, which have now formed a community, yourself included. But somehow, when you shave off the edges of the truth, I'm not talking about you, Harley, per se, I'm talking about each of us, as we shave off the edges of the truth, including the impact we make in the quality of our lives and the lives of the people around us. There's something dishonest about that. There's something quite wonderful, something I've always seen about Chaya from the very first day I met him, where he has been unapologetic about his greatness. Now, that doesn't mean, Harley, that he doesn't have the same self-doubts that you do or I do or anybody listening has. But there's the possibility that you can include, you have those, you can bypass those, and allow yourself to express yourself in real time and be as great as you are without having to apologize for it.
Hey, Harley, babe, who made up these rules? See, the rules that you try not to live by.
Rules I resist. Yeah.
Who made that up? And then the question, Harley, is, were they happy people? Were they satisfied and felt fulfilled by their lives?
Probably not.
Probably not.
But at the same time, I have a thought process in my head, Harley. It's a mental image that I created for myself out of something you once told us. You told us about your mom, who really instilled in you the values of the Amish. Of course, your dad did, and the whole community. But that later in life, you bought her a really beautiful robe or a house dress. Somebody did. And you told us it was turquoise, at least in my memory, but it had zippers. And that she took the zippers out because zippers were not part of her culture. And I have to tell you, aside from going, oh, there's some part of me that admires her willingness to be true to her values right till the end. There's something about that I find quite exquisite. We can hold those as narrow or limitations, but for her, they were something that she embraced and embodied. And
well, it gave her a sense of security too, because she had these rules that determined what a good person did in their lives, and then she could adhere to those rules and feel like a good person.
Yeah.
Nothing's wrong with that. See, look, there's nothing wrong with Amish people being Amish.
Yeah, I've actually learned to appreciate the simplicity of the lifestyle. When I go visit, there's just not the distractions that you have in a normal household. There's no TV, there's no radio, there's no telephone, and you can, it's an opportunity to have direct communication with somebody without distractions. And it's really cool.
Yes.
So what I love about it, Harley, is you embody all of that when you don't resist it. Then you have the choices of
there's a flexibility.
There's a flexibility in you. It's not against that or for that. It allows you to be Harley as opposed to I'm not that.
And let's face it, a lot of your life has been I'm not that.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, but that's the only way it could have been. You see, look, you could have only lived your life exactly as you did right up until the point when your brother, what's his name?
Dennis.
Shout out to Dennis.
when Dennis gave you this book and you read it and you listened to our podcasts and you had the courage, I mean, the absolute courage to bring yourself to New York to do a seminar with us one weekend. That took immense courage.
By the way, if you're listening and you're wondering which book it was, it really doesn't matter, although we had several. It was Practical Enlightenment. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the book. Yes.
Yeah, that one ignited a new fire or a fire that had been banked for a long time.
Yeah, but you know, it created possibilities that you hadn't seen before about who you are and what your purpose here in life is or can be. So hey, look, I brag on you all the time. See, I just bragged on you when I said what an immense amount of courage it took to look for yourself and discover what else is possible for your life rather than just put up with or resist not being like something else. You know, discovering you, not you in opposition to something. That's very cool. And very few people have had that option, that opportunity to discover who they are not in opposition to where they came from.
Yeah.
That's great stuff.
I have a challenge for you, my friend.
Okay.
It will be fun to see if you can allow yourself, because I have this too, like I'll wear something beautiful and people will say, oh, that's really nice. I'll say, yes, I got it at a consignment for $7.50. Like, it's not okay to just say thank you, that there's a certain kind of apologetic that comes along with my culture, very similar in certain aspects. I think it's going to be fun for you to say, look at my truck. I love my truck, without having to add the addendum, I got a bargain. So let's play with that for a while, because I think it's kind of fun. Shia always laughs at me when I have to tell everybody that I got something on sale.
That's funny, because I've done that to almost everybody I've shown the truck to, is like, you know, I have to justify, you know, I got a really good deal, got a good amount on the trade-in, and then it's kind of okay that I did it.
Yeah, God forbid to use, God forbid you just are wealthy, because you know what they say about wealthy people.
It's harder for them to get into heaven than it is for a camel to walk through the eye of a needle. Now, can you imagine that? It'd have to be a very big needle anyway.
That's great.
Hey,
thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for being with us today. And also, although you're trying to not remember that this came for you, thank you for suggesting this title.
That bragging can be cool.
You're very welcome. I'm glad we used it.
Me too.
Hey, you want to hear about transformation?
Mm-hmm.
We've got one of our listeners about to tell you about what's happened in their life out of listening to being here.
Hi, I'm Daniela from Euskirchen, Germany. I really enjoy being in the community of transformation. I feel I can rebalance. Joining the seminars, I come back to myself much more easy and much more myself.
Do you want to have well-being with consistency? Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Ariel and Shire's lively interactive Living Made Easy virtual seminars. Join any of their 2-hour online events or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
We invite you to come join us in person. Our courses are primarily virtually at this point. We do have some virtual. So it makes it easy. You can Zoom in from anywhere on this planet. We have people from all over the world who join us. We have the Living Made Easies on Saturday mornings, Eastern time, in the afternoon for our European friends, and Monday evenings. There's one Tuesday evening European time a month, and there's also the weekend seminars.
So our next weekend seminar is in July 30th and 31st. It's called Creativity and Intuition.
I love that course. It is awesome. You are invited. If you'd like to find out more, or if you would like to sign up for our newsletter and get podcasts, get videos and articles, go to transformationmadeeasy.com.
The other thing is we have a video subscription series that you can join us and have a video in your inbox every week of us working with either a person or a couple, talking about things that people talk about.
I know a lot of you listen and love the podcast. Thank you for all the feedback you've been sending in. If you want to add the visual component, if you want to be a part of a format where you can write in questions where we will answer them each month, and also where you have special articles for the subscribers, Living Made Easy on Demand. You can find out also on our website, transformationmadeeasy.com. Let's take our next guest, shall we? All right. Holly, welcome to here.
Hello.
Hi.
There we go. Hi.
Where are you zooming in from, Holly?
I am zooming in from Brooklyn, New York.
Welcome to being here.
It's nice to be here. Really nice. I enjoyed the last part, listening to you talking with Harley, because the whole thing with the bragging, it's a little bit part of my culture too, where, it's not something you're supposed to do very much. You're supposed to be more modest and humble and stuff like that. But I like this idea of bragging about something that you've done, or something that you're happy about, you're proud of. So it was nice to see you talking to him and see him reacting to it.
It's interesting. A friend of ours, who's a close friend of yours, Jody, recently sent out. She got involved in looking at how to put her artwork up as if people were doing a virtual indoor and outdoor art walk. So you could look at the different things she had created as if you were on a virtual art tour. Mm-hmm. And I'm certain for her, on some level, that felt like bragging. But for all of us, it was
a gift.
And also an inspiration of possibility. Like, wow, she had an interest and learned that all on her own. What do I have an interest in? As opposed to, oh, look at her, she's bragging. So there's a whole other possibility where when you share the things that you're passionate about, that what happens is people are inspired as opposed to
Well, you know,
comparing.
I find this very interesting.
Hmm.
See, you grew up in a culture where having a lot of money was not a good thing. And your family had money. See, and so there's this trying not to be ostentatious, trying not to be show offish, trying not to be arrogant, yet you had what other people strived for, as though a better person would never talk about their wealth.
Right.
I find
That's
that
true.
it's fascinating to me that, you know, recently I heard about these fellows who went up into space, to the space station, and 3 of them had to pay to do it, and they paid $55 million each to go up and be a crew on the space station for a week. And I think that kind of money, I cannot even imagine.
Yep.
I
me
can't
either.
imagine it. And Harley bought a new truck, and he's embarrassed that he spent money on a new something for him.
I have to say, I totally related to Harley on that. I bought my very first new car. I'm 61, and it's my very first new car in my life. And everything about it, the most important thing was the color. There was all these other bells and whistles that people really wanted. And I go, no, but I really like this color. That's the color I want. But I totally get like this idea of like, it's my very first new one, because I never thought I should get one. I always got used cars beforehand. I didn't think that I should spend money on that.
Right, like as if money is hard to come by, and therefore I don't want people to know I have any.
Right.
Well,
You know,
I know you renovated your home, and
Yes.
In a certain respect, it was, I know you guys didn't skimp. You got everything you wanted in your home. And
Well, we hired somebody too to do, like we hired somebody that had the expertise to help us do it, you know, an interior
What?
designer.
You didn't do it yourself?
I did what I did myself, saying, yes, I like that. You give me 2 choices and I'll tell you which one I want. Yeah, no, I know that hiring somebody to, well, you know, you're making me think of, there was one day I was with my husband, and Eric was talking, and he was saying, you know, honey, you're wealthy. And I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, well, your mother left you some money, and you have money, and you have this apartment, and this apartment is worth a certain amount of money. You have a lot of money. And it was like really hard for me to, it was really hard for me to, as you can see, I'm still stumbling on it. It was really hard for me to say, yeah, I am.
yeah.
I am wealthy.
Yeah, and here's the thing, you know, Ariel had a dream a while back that her father came to her in her dream.
I did. I had an iPhone, and I wanted the newer iPhone because, as you know, I take a lot of photos, and the new one not only had an extra camera, it was in particular, could do low light pictures. And I'd been struggling with pictures I'd been trying to take in low light, but I thought I should wait because it was like too much.
It was an extravagance.
And
Right.
my parents had borrowed money from me, and when my mom passed away, the loan got repaid back to us. So we had some money sitting in our account from that, which I thought, you know, we really shouldn't touch. You got to put it all away for retirement. And I had a dream, and my dad has dementia, but he came to me in the dream, and he said, Ariel, you know that money you have sitting in your account? when you die, it's gone. You can't use it after you die. And the next morning I woke up, and it was during the pandemic, and I went to the mall to purchase a nearby mall to purchase an outfit for our great granddaughter for a holiday. And I got to the mall at opening hours, but they started an hour later due to COVID restrictions. And I had no clue. It never occurred to me that it was open at a different time. But the fellow at the door said, that's okay. I'm going to Apple because they open an hour earlier than all the stores. And I said, I'm getting myself an iPhone, which is very interesting, this creativity and intuition thing. It was as if I went there, but I had to have my dad come to me in a dream to make it okay, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, it's good. That's really good. Well, part of me, I wanted to talk a little bit about bragging today because I recently retired a couple of months ago, and I really am finding not as many things like my friends that are still educators. I was an educator, and it was very natural for me to talk about education and brag about that, particularly when I used to be in the schools and was with the kids and stuff like that. And now I'm finding I don't know what there is to brag about. I have little things, or I consider them little things like cooking parties and stuff like that. But I'm struggling with this idea of, is my identity just the only thing that I brag about?
I think we have to back off from the word brag right now because we're being constrained by it a little bit because it's the title, but I have a feeling that you have a muzzle on your self-expression.
But it's the same muzzle that said, I can't talk about how much money I have.
Right.
So you judge what you find exciting. So I recall your husband said that you got a book and you decided, kind of like there was a movie, Julia, and a woman who had decided, her name Julia, was going to do every recipe Julia Child had in her book. So you've gotten this book that's inspired you, and you've decided to cook every recipe in the book. And I have a feeling that when you have an experience that you find inspiring of taking this a recipe and creating it either the same or modifying it, or your experience in the kitchen, you think of that as bragging, and bragging is bad, as opposed to, I'm excited about this, let me share it with my friends.
Right.
It was easier for you to be self-expression about how cool a kid was or what you saw in a classroom than it is to be revealing about yourself, because that's vulnerable.
Well, see, here's the thing. It goes to your insecurity, as if there's something wrong. In most religions, there's this thing that God created us in his or her own image.
Right.
Well, then how could you be in any way flawed? If you're created in God's image, well, then how? And I'm not a religious dude, but I'll use it for this purpose. How can you be in any way inadequate? You're a reflection of a facet of God. Enjoy. Swing out. Enjoy your life. Your life is to be lived, not worried about or parsed out in small packages to the things that you're allowed to be enthusiastic about. You can be enthusiastic about that next breath.
When you are wholeheartedly you, unapologetically you, you create a possibility. And I have a feeling that one of the challenges you have about expressing your excitement for the things you've been doing since you're retired is on some level you're a little embarrassed that you're retired and you have the resources to retire when so many of your friends are still working.
Right.
And what's
That's true.
lovely is if you are a excited about your life retired person, it creates a possibility for people who might want to retire but are afraid to do it because they think their life will be over.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something about being alive, whether at 81, like Shia, you're still working.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a still, you're working because that's your.
Wait a second, working? I'm enjoying my life and I get paid to be me,
Right.
which I find is incredibly successful. When you're enjoying what you're doing and you get paid just to be you and what you see and what you notice about life and the difference it can make in other people's lives. See, if I sat silent when my life transformed and just enjoyed the benefits of my own transformation, nobody else would know that they could relax into life and have a partnership with their husband or wife rather than a fight, and approving that I'm smart.
Right.
You know,
You see?
I spent many years learning the skill set of acting. And acting in its best is creating a reality so completely that other people get swept away into that reality and forget their story for a moment. But now I create the reality of well-being and people jump into it. I'm not creating somebody's neurosis and doing other people's words. We get to be here with you.
And you see, Holly, darling, you are a possibility for other people. But when you restrict your enthusiasm because it's not okay to brag,
Right.
then they don't know that there's another possibility. See, I remember the first night I met you many years ago at the Village Community School.
Oh no.
No,
How
oh,
was
yes.
I? Oh yes. Okay.
Oh, yes. And you were magnificent then. Otherwise, I wouldn't
See,
remember you.
You have an idea about you.
That's right.
But I know you're retired and you said I was an educator, but at the end of your education cycle,
Yes.
they created a department because you had such a wonderful a perspective on how to mainstream children who were identified as either learning disabilities or, you know, the vernacular for them has really changed, and how to have them be included in school, that they had you start a department, that you created a whole curriculum for the New York City Department of Education.
I mean, that's an outstanding.
Wow.
But the thing is, you were so excitedly expressing yourself that you created a possibility for an entire school system and millions of children, literally.
Mm-hmm.
So somehow you're not willing to be this excited about what you're doing now. There's the potentially that you're robbing the world of this incredible perspective called Holly.
Okay. No more robbing. No more robbing.
Don't make a decision.
Oh, you will.
Okay.
The moment
Don't
you
make a
forget yourself.
decision.
All
But
right.
you are a possibility. And from
Yeah.
time to time, my dear, you forget that you're that possibility.
You know, we did a Living Made Easy the other night, and you were on it, and Shia said who either underestimates themselves, or there was some question like, oh, who's insecure? And initially you
Yeah.
didn't like raise your hand, and and then I started looking for places where my insecurities might play out. And I've started a new book project, and you're supporting me in it. And I had the thought, oh, why am I doing another book? They have no value and nobody reads them anyway. And I thought, I have to talk to Holly, because Holly's reading, Holly will disabuse me of this. And then here we are with Harley today. And he read our book, and that was the catalytic beginning for him to discover a whole new possibility for his life. But so when you say no more, you will again forget who you are. But that's why we have shows like Being Here. That's why we do have this community. That's why you have the people around you who know you and love you to say, hello.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been so nice. So nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, did you enjoy this podcast? If so, you can leave a review on your favorite podcast app. It helps other people find Being Here. So if you failed to do it, thanks in advance. And you ready for next week's episode? Every little thing.
Going to be great.
Going to be all right.
Going to be all. No, it's going to be great.
Okay. I know every little thing going to be all right because we took it from the song, but it is going to be great. We'll be back next week.
So come on back and don't miss.
You say it, Holly.
Being Here.